Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. Well, as the title of the video says, Fetchlands have been banned. But it gets even weirder because only allied colored Fetchlands have been banned. So wait, what? Hold on, only half the Fetchlands are banned? What's going on here? Well, what's going on, my friends, and some of you who came to the live stream yesterday with me and Rogue Deck Builder may already know what's going on. And that is, Wizards of the Coast has announced a brand new format to Magic the Gathering. And as such, there is a ban list that comes with this brand new format. Now, this ban list only includes 5 cards, the 5 fetches, the 5 allied color fetches. So why aren't the enemy colored fetches included? Well, that's because they don't actually exist within the sets that are included in this format. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up an image here of all of the sets that are encompassed in this new format. We're going to talk about what the format is, why it was created, and whether this is something that's going to gain some traction or kind of fade away off into the distance. So as you can see, the new set is called Pioneer. I just want to take a moment to give a shout out to Rogue Deck Builder because last night, he contacted me with some insider information saying, yo, I got the scoop on this Pioneer format that may be coming to Magic soon. And he even said, I think they may drop this knowledge on us tomorrow, meaning today. So he said, hey, do you want to live stream this? And I said, yes, I do. Now, Rogue Deck Builder is a delightful fellow. So if you would like to see our almost 2-hour live stream of everything that we talked about, how he found the information for Pioneer, what we thought it was going to be. It was a great stream, in all honesty. It was fantastic. Everybody seemed to enjoy it. So it's up on the channel. Most of my live streams don't get left up, but this one did because it turned out great. Now, let's take a look at what's included in Pioneer. You have Return to Ravnica, Gatecrash, Dragon's Maze, Magic 2014 core set, Theros, Born of the Gods, Journey into Nyx, Magic 2015 core set, Khans of Tarkir, Fate Reforged, Dragons of Tarkir, Magic Origins, Battle for Zendikar, Oath of the Gatewatch, Shadows over Innistrad, Eldritch Moon, Kaladesh, Aether Revolt, Amonkhet, Hour of Devastation, Ixalan, Rivals of Ixalan, Dominaria, Core Set 2019, Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance, where oh my god, they spelt it wrong. They spelt Ravnica Allegiance wrong on their official website in this graphic. Oh my god. Anyways, I never noticed. War of the Spark, Core Set 2020, and Throne of Eldraine. Now you'll notice down in the corner, big red letters, it says banned. It's got the 5 friend-colored Fetchlands. Those are the only cards that are banned in the format. If you want to really make it simple in how to describe this to people, all you have to say is Pioneer is everything from Return to Ravnica onwards, and you're not allowed to use the Khans of Tarkir Fetchlands. Now, man, this image is really poorly put together. Ravnica Allegiance is spelt wrong, and the graphical fidelity, the quality of the images for the Fetchlands they used, maybe they accidentally uploaded an earlier image of this. Maybe they went and fixed it and did a better version, and this was a placeholder version. But good lord, this image is taken directly from their announcement. Like, I didn't make this image. This was made by them. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But anyways, as you can see, it's Return to Ravnica forwards. Now, the fans of Magic the Gathering had tried to create something like this previously with Frontier, and what I'm going to do here is let's talk about actually the reason that they started. Let's talk about what they said in the article about this. So, the story of Pioneer starts with Modern. Years and years and years ago, in 2011 to be exact, Modern was created as an in-between point for players not yet ready for the deep dive of Legacy, but looking for more ways to use their collection once cards rotated out of Standard. It was 18 years after the first Legacy Legal set was released, that would be Alpha, and the gap needed filling. Now, it's interesting to note that they're actually completely glossing over Extended here. I guess they don't really need to cover Extended for you, I suppose, because it's not like terribly relevant to the story, but to pretend like Modern was the only way to play with older cards isn't actually the truth. Originally, when we created formats, we had a scenario, or not we created, when they created formats, they originally came up with Type 1 and Type 2, and Type 2 was what would become standard, and Type 1 was everything else in Magic. Then they had a number of different things that they tried. One of them was Extended, and that was called Type 1.x. Now, Extended admittedly did have some memory issues. When you play Standard, you know, you've got to keep on top of rotation. Well, Extended was a longer period of time in terms of the sets you could use, but it still had rotation. So for example, if Extended still existed as a legitimate format now that was supported by Wizards of the Coast, its rotation would look something like this. Around August of next year is when you would have everything from like the Kaladesh block rotating, right? So you'd be able to go all the way back to the Kaladesh block with Extended. But Modern came in and said, no. Instead of having these rotating things, what we'll do is everything new frame forward. So essentially, what Modern is Modern is supposed to be 8th edition onward. So everything with the new card frame, and that's easier to have a set starting point and keep adding to it. But of course, that means that the format does balloon upwards as well in terms of what's available in it. Now, the article continues, fast forward to now, and Modern has become what we wanted it to be. A non-rotating format players enjoy and feel free to explore. Rotation is definitely an issue. Standard, meanwhile, is thriving and being introduced to a new generation of players through Magic Arena. But there's a gap, a sizable one. The oldest Modern set came out in 2003, 16 years ago. And now that Modern's card pool is this large, it no longer serves the needed role of format when you can use your standard cards after rotation. And that's true. Most things that you get aren't going to be powerful enough to mess around in Modern. Modern is a very powerful format, obviously not as powerful as when you go all the way back to like Vintage and Legacy, but overall, Modern is a power-heavy format. There's a lot of strong cards in there. So for players who started more recently and still want to play with their favorite cards after rotation, Pioneer, like Modern before it, bridges that gap while providing a fun experience for both tabletop and Magic Online. Currently, there are no plans to add it as a format to Magic the Gathering Arena. And I'm not surprised. They're not looking to reach too far back with Arena at all. They're looking for Arena to be the place where you go to play Standard. Before we go further down the Pioneer trail, let's make one thing crystal clear. Modern isn't going anywhere. We love Modern, and players do as well. Pioneer isn't a replacement in any sense, and that's true. It's not going to be able to be a replacement. Its power level is nowhere near the power level of Modern, and anybody who enjoys Modern is not going to enjoy Pioneer the same way. It is instead a recognition of a diverse, growing, and stratified player base, stratified by money in most cases. As we discussed when we launched our updated esports programs, tabletop play is growing, and that growth means we need to provide not just more opportunities to play, but more ways to play. We view Pioneer as an additive. Pioneer will utilize sets from Return to Ravnica forward. One goal in creating Pioneer was for the format to be large enough to have cross-block synergy to give the format its own unique characteristics. Starting with the Return to Ravnica gives the format that is the most different from Modern, since Modern launched right before Return to Ravnica. For more on why that set was used as the format inception point, just an advertisement to check out the weekly Magic stream. Now, they don't really go into the philosophy of why they have chosen to ban the fetches. They're going to go ahead and cover that in the future. So I'm going to give my opinions now. We've gone through the article. I'm going to give my opinions on this concept. They are bringing this format out very quickly. Within a week, you will see it available on MTGO. They're going to be supporting it in actual physical tournaments as well. I, for one, see this as a welcome addition to Magic the Gathering. Modern originally showed up because people were having a problem acquiring cards to play in the older formats, and the price of the cards for the older formats were also really high. Now Modern's reached that point where it's pushed a ton of cards prices up into the stratosphere. Look at Mox Opal, for example. There's some crazy price tags attached to these cards. So having a scenario now where we have a new format where you can play with older stuff up until a point, you get to go all the way back to Return to Ravnica, but you don't have to worry about crazy power levels, them keeping the fetch lands out of this format, I think helps give this format its own identity. I actually touched on this in the banning video where we talked about Arkham's Astrolabe being banned, but I don't like Magic formats where you can play 4 or 5 colors easily, because part of the balancing to Magic to me is the color pie and the whole, okay, you're going to get your lands, but can you get the right colors? Well, when you have shock lands and fetch lands in the same format, it's very easy to run 4 or 5 colors. 3 colors, you can be guaranteed to have access to all your colors with 0 problems. It's so easy to build a solid, reliable mana base in Modern with the fetches and the shock lands. So this format will have the shock lands. There is actually a demand for this format as well to a degree. We know this because it's essentially a slightly reworked Frontier. And if you guys don't remember, Frontier was something that was hyped up for a bit. It was a fan-created format that allowed you to play with everything from Magic. It was like Magic 15 or Magic Origins onwards. I think it might have been Magic 15. But either way, what they decided was to pull it back a little further and start with the Return to Ravnica, which I think is actually a reasonable starting place. It gives you a nice wide range of cards to pull from without going too far back to be inaccessible, without going too far back to get into the expensive stuff. And it's where they had more refined their power philosophy. There's not as much broken nonsense. So it does feel like it's going to have its own particular identity as a format. I love the fact that the fetches aren't going to be in it, because with the fetches inside the format, you're just going to make comparisons to Modern. It's going to feel like a watered down Modern instead of a separate format. So I wonder how many different times, like how long will Magic survive and how many iterations will we have? Well, Modern showed up to solve this problem, but then Modern became part of that problem. From Pioneer shows up now to solve the problem for a while. In 9-10 years, will we be going, look, Pioneer is financially inaccessible, full of broken, crazy nonsense. It's not as broken as Modern, it's not as broken as Vintage, but it's still broken. What will be the next format? Are we going to get into this sort of like once a decade they roll out a new format where you can use stuff back to a certain point? I think it's likely. Over time, I think it's likely. It's good to see the Wizards of the Coast is taking this seriously. It's nice to see them actually supporting paper Magic in this regard, because I see more and more common people leaving comments going, Wizards is trying to get rid of paper Magic and get everyone to Arena. And that's not the case. Look at how much money they're able to sell these big, expensive paper products. So it's nice to see actual formats coming out where they go, look, we want to give people the ability to play with all of their cards. We're not just trying to lock them into a standard box. We're not just trying to push away paper. And honestly, it will give a chance for cards that aren't good enough for Modern, but are good enough for Pioneer to shine. You will see, obviously, we're going to see price movement on these cards. There's already been like some buyouts happening and some price spikes as a result of this. There will always be people who are keeping an eye on Magic the Gathering, paying attention to what's coming. Some of them actually have insider information. There are groups out there that I've been made aware of that have access to Wizards of the Coast employees and other things like that, that feed them early information, and they do go out and make purchases ahead of time. We've already seen a spike in a number of cards like Smuggler's Copter, stuff like that, where people are going, okay, we've got a new format, not as powerful as Modern, we can snag up this. So they're out there grabbing up the pieces. That, unfortunately, is something that will always be a part of Magic for as long as it's healthy, and there is no way to step on that. But that is a minor footnote. Overall, I see what's happening as a positive. I think that this is a good choice. Hopefully Pioneer will survive. Having Wizard support behind it should make a difference. And who knows, maybe one day it'll come to Arena, but it seems really unlikely because they'd have to go all the way back to Return to Ravnica inside of Arena, and it does seem like a forwards push. So that's all I have to say on this subject. Let me know what you guys think about Pioneer. Is this something that excites you? If you're somebody who just got into Magic in the last 4 or 5, maybe 6 years, you're going to be looking at a scenario where all these cards you've built up over the years are all of a sudden having new life breathed into them. New possibility, new metas will come along, new builds. So it gives us more to talk about, more to enjoy with Magic the Gathering, which is always nice. And it's good to see that Wizards is being proactive with this in terms of preemptively banning the fetch lands. And as an added note, you can take this as pretty much a guarantee we will never see the fetches printed inside of a standard set going forwards. There are people who are like, oh, I hope that the Zendikar set has fetches in it. It's really, really unlikely. From going forwards, the Fetchlands will show up in Wizards' more expensive products because it allows them to keep the price elevated and make more money, and that's what they want. Now, it's time to roll the scroll. These are the people supporting my channel through channel memberships or Patreon. Very much appreciated. Actually, I have a couple names written down here because we got some new people to welcome. So welcome aboard, Aaron Alper, Arthays, and Anna Marcus. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. It means a lot to me. Glad to have added you to the glorious scroll of the best people in the world. Everyone, thanks for being here, and I shall see you all tomorrow.